In your politics on this Thursday morning, we turn to Caroline Heldman, as we always do, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. She is here, as she always is this week, to break down the political headlines. And boy, as we always say, never a dull moment. Good morning.
Good morning, Giselle. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Breaking overnight, as you know, U.S. Special Forces conducted what we're told is a successful counterterrorism mission in Syria. The Pentagon says details are scarce, but the Biden administration is touting the killing of the leader of ISIS. How significant is this on the world stage, given everything that's happening with Russia?
Well, it's definitely significant in the sense that no one knew that this was underway, and it appears to be highly successful, at least according to U.S. reports. There are some reports from the White Helmets, a Syrian civil defense organization, saying that 13 civilians were killed in this raid, including, they're claiming, 6 children. So I'm imagining that on the U.S. front, that Biden's opposition will make a lot of hay about that if indeed those reports are found to be accurate. But this is, something that should just be a boon for Biden, because ISIS and finding the head and excising the head of ISIS should be a major victory for him.
And does this change the narrative for him on the world stage, especially after Afghanistan? Does it show, a stronger America under a Biden administration? And does it help him in the midterms?
Well, foreign policy generally never helps presidents in the midterms or members of their party. We simply, in the United States, don't pay much attention to foreign policy when it comes to elections. It's really all about the economy. And if Biden were a little better at communicating, the fact that we have the lowest unemployment rate in more than half a century, I think he would be doing better in terms of polling. But foreign policy, not going to affect the midterm elections.
So turning now to the Supreme Court, President Biden committing to appointing a black jurist to replace Stephen Breyer. And a lot is being made by the right about choosing a black woman, like Ted Cruz even suggesting a black justice wouldn't be qualified, injecting race into this conversation. The Biden administration says the court should look more like America. Is race a factor in the confirmation hearings now, and how unprecedented is that?
Well, I think race has always been a factor. I am shaking my head at Ted Cruz's comments, because the bench of qualified black women to fill this seat is very deep. There are so many black women whom Biden could choose from. And I would say that race and gender are often factors in deciding Supreme Court justices, because all you have to do is look at the history. 95% have been white men. I'm a statistician. That doesn't happen randomly. That means that their race and their gender is very much driving their appointment. Since 1789, only 7 members of the Supreme Court have not been a white man. So this is an historic moment. It's one where Biden is saying, look, I want the court to look more like the United States, just like Ronald Reagan did with Sandy Day O'Connor back in the 80s. So making an explicit effort to say we're going to make the court more inclusive doesn't mean that you sacrifice unqualified folks, because there are literally hundreds of black women who are qualified for this position in the U.S.
Well, it's going to take all 50 senators for confirmation. But with Senator Lujan now out, having suffered that stroke, the Senate may not have the 50 votes to confirm the justice. How fragile could this confirmation become?
That's a great point, Giselle. Senator Lujan is expected to make a full recovery, thankfully, and that will be 4 to 6 weeks. It's likely that the appointment confirmation will be put off until he is back on his feet, because the Democrats simply do not have the numbers to confirm in the Senate without him.
Right. All right. I have to ask you about the bombshell revelations in the January 6th committee. New documents released implicate the former president now in trying to use the military to seize voting machines in states that he lost, suggesting he was very much at the helm of this plan. Does this raise the stakes for him to be prosecuted?
Well, it actually doesn't, in the sense that he didn't actually file these executive orders. But as you point out, Giselle, I actually don't think enough has been made of this bombshell investigation from the New York Times. The fact that you have a president who proposes 2 executive orders and discusses having the Pentagon and the Department of Justice, and in these executive orders, the Department of Homeland Security seize voting machines. Imagine what that would have looked like. Military officials or Department of Homeland Security folks going and taking voting machines. There would have been violence in the streets had this plan actually been put into place, because it is such an affront to the American way of doing our democracy. So while it wasn't illegal because he didn't put these into place, it certainly speaks to the fact that he was very much planning to overthrow a free and fair election in 2020.
Well, where's the accountability for all of that? With all this mounting evidence, former Vice President Pence, all of his documents are going to be turned over to the January 6th committee as well. I mean, is there no accountability for this kind of behavior?
Well, there may be. The January 6th committee may file, it suggests that criminal charges be filed for incitement of violence, for these actions of sending them or planning to send the military in to obtain these records. But at the end of the day, the Department of Justice will be very reluctant to prosecute a former sitting president. They just will.
Caroline Heldman, thank you so much for joining us, as you do every Thursday, to give us some much-needed perspective on the very challenging times we live in. Thank you.
Thanks, Giselle.
All right, when we come back, a new proposal could give financial assistance to children who've lost a parent due to COVID-19. Later this morning, we'll break down it all. We'll be back.